Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast brought to you by Tacticam. Tacticam is by far the easiest way to begin filming your hunts. Whether it's the budget-friendly solo or the 4K 5.0, Tacticam has something for everyone. Check them out at tacticam.com. This year we're also working with Spartan Forge. Spartan Forge is machine learning, artificial intelligence for the deer woods. It's the Farmer's Almanac on steroids. Except for this time it has millions, billions of data points from collared deer studies all over all different regions of the U.S. Because the deer in Georgia don't move like the deer in New York or Michigan or Iowa. There's different weather patterns, different things that trigger them. So you can check out our podcast with Bill back a few months ago. But Spartan Forge is adding a lot of new features, and right now it's priced super friendly, and you can use code BOWHUNTER to save 25%. But if you buy it now, you're locked into that price as they add things. So these data points are continually being collected, and they're able to do more with the information because machine learning, it's always learning. It's not just stagnant. So as they add new features, the price is going to go up. But once you're locked in at whatever price, you're grandfathered in for all of the features to come. So it's not going to be this cheap forever. Prices are changing. Things are going on. So get over to spartanforge.ai and check it out. Use code BOWHUNTER for 25% off. We got to say welcome to our newest Patreon. So Patreon is a crowdfunding for creators. So what they do is they like the show. They listen just like you do. And they say, man, we want to help out. We want to support these guys. We want more cool stuff. So they sign up, and it starts at like $5 a month. It's 17 cents a day for what we're doing. And we give away a ton of stuff. So for this quarter, so we do quarterly giveaways. Tacticam's giving away a 5.0 camera package with the Turkey Reaper, and this year for everything that Tacticam is giving us, they said whoever wins it, when they kill something, have them send us the footage. We will edit it and we will share it on all of our social. So that's super cool. We're giving away a Latitude Classic saddle. And that's going to be the whole kit. So we're going to be Latitude Classic Saddle, XOP sticks, the Artisan Outdoor platform that I've been using. And then just because we're not affiliated with anybody, we're going to give you the new tethered 8mm ropes. So we're giving that away. Spartan Forge is giving away a swag pack with, a hat, shirt, and a 1-year subscription to Spartan Forge. Base map. I mean, right now I'm testing the new base map app. They're upgrading a bunch of stuff within their app, and I'm testing that out. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from the base map. It's hard to beat the price of base map. I mean, $30 for the entire year for the entire country. Tons and tons of layers. I mean, it's got lake depths. It's got all different things, and then you can use our code, which is Chronicles. You got to go online to do that. If you go through the App Store takes money. So if you go online, use code Chronicles, you'll save 20% there. So it's $24 for the year for base map. I mean, it's a great program, and it's super hard to beat. So they're giving away a year subscription to their base map pro, as well as the swag pack as well. The guys from Zinger Fletchings are giving away some of their fletchings. So they're 3D printed, compression fit. You can check them out at Zinger Fletchings. You just put that in, and we're giving that away. So, I mean, these are all things that, are only for the Patreon. So I added another tier. So there's a $10 tier that has 3 times the chances to win all of that stuff, as well as a Marco Polo group. So that's been really awesome. A lot of gear testing, a lot of gear talk, and just building a community. And we're really enjoying that. So, like I said, that's our Patreon. If you want to become part of that, our newest Patreon. So we've got Robbie Signer from Coldwater, Michigan, and Tori Owens. Tori's from New York. He's put me in touch with a lot of great people. And we've mentioned him on the Jason Campbell podcast. If you didn't listen to that one, you should. It's got some interesting information towards the end of it, a little polarizing. But he was New York transplanted here to Michigan, right in our hometown. And then for that, those $10 guys, they've got those three times the chances to win everything that we're giving away in that public land assassin category. Adam Hudson out of West Virginia, Dylan Booth out of New York, and then Nathan Cooper. And Nathan, I need to get your address because I'm sending out the swag packs, and I need to know where to send it. So, and when you win, that Tacticam or that saddle setup, I need to know where to send that too. So, get a hold of me through Patreon, or you got my phone number for, they have all got my number. So, I can't thank those guys enough. That money goes right back into the show for equipment like this. The pod track, the thing that I'm using here, I just bought refurbished a new computer to send John with, all sorts of things. So all of this is going right back into the podcast. And you can check that out. I mean, if you guys want to do that, that's at patreon.com/Bowhunter Chronicles podcast, or you just click on our website and there's a link to Patreon on there. And when you're on the website, up in the right-hand corner, there's a way to sign up. You can sign up through Instagram. There's a link there. We're giving away a bow. So we're giving away a bow, not through Patreon. Anybody can join. Anybody can sign up. Including the Patrons, we have like maybe 150 people that have signed up to win this bow. It's a Bowtech Carbon Zion. We're getting that not from Bowtech. We're getting that on our own. Our friends up at Mitch's Great Outdoors in Montague, Michigan, they are helping us out. So big thanks to Mitch. And John's going to set that bow up. Everything on it is going to be brand new. And this podcast with Chris Hamm from HHA, I reached out to him to say, hey, can you, maybe give us a discount on the site? And he just, opened the doors and said, yep, I'll give you a site. I'll give you a rest. We'll get everything set up. So it's going to be the HHA Tetra, just an incredible single pin sight. So this is a $1,000 plus bow package that we're giving away just to say thank you to you guys, the listener. So really good odds, even better odds for the Patreons, because they get additional entries. But anybody can win it. So you don't have to be a Patreon to win. You just go to the website and sign up. That's all you need to do. But getting back to this podcast, HHA has been making, probably the best single pin sights out there forever. And it's just one of those kind of staples. I've been using one for years, I don't know, a decade. And, to sit down and talk with Chris, what a great guy. But he's doing, with everything that he's got from HHA, he wanted to give back to the veteran community. And so he started this HHA USA Foundation to give back to veterans through Honor Flight. There's a number of different organizations that are on his HHA USA website, but they're also giving money to help prevent the 22 veterans that commit suicide every day. They're donating a good percent. I believe it's 22% of their everything that HHA USA takes in to kind of thwart that, to help provide support to those veterans. And so, I mean, this is a really good podcast if you want to learn more about HHA, but more so you get to see kind of like, who Chris is and what they're doing with HHA USA and how they're giving back to the veterans. So I think you guys are really going to like this podcast. So let us know what you think. Leave us a review. Tell one of your buddies. Say, hey, check out this podcast. That's all we can ask. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Enjoy the episode. All right, everybody. Adam and John back with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. Tonight, we've got Chris Hamm with HHA on the line, and through some of our mutual friends and Eric over at the Where to Hunt podcast. When we were doing this bow giveaway, I was like, we need to outfit this thing. And I know that Eric had, does a bunch of HHA stuff. And so I just said, hey, do you know anybody over there? And he put me in touch with Chris. And Chris is like, I can't say enough good things. It was just like it was like talking to an old friend, like super easy to talk to, super helpful, everything. And, doing some really great things with kind of the platform and the, his ability with HHA. And we'll get into some of that on the podcast, but, just real quick, big thanks to Eric for putting us in touch with Chris. So, how are you doing tonight, Chris?
Well, I'm trying to stay warm. I think you guys always get a little warm up over the lake, but it's 8 below here just with the straight temp tonight. So,
wow,
welcome to winter.
Yeah,
we had 35 or 36 below wind chills yesterday morning when I got up. So,
yeah, I think we were like 5 degrees this morning, and I know on my way home it was like 16. And I thought I was actually talking to one of our patrons in Oklahoma, and he was chipping ice off his car, and I'm like, well, it's up 11 degrees from this morning at 16. So
yeah, it's 13 right now. So,
and that's a heat wave for you, it sounds like.
Well, once it gets to 5 or 0, it's like it's just cold. It doesn't matter if it's 10 above or 10 below or 20 below. It's just you go outside, and about the first 2 steps you take, your breath is gone. So,
and so you are, from HHA. Everybody thinks of HHA as the single pin guys, right? I mean, that's kind of, John, is that what you would say?
Well, that's what I was. Yeah, I mean, that's my first single pin site was the HHA.
So, from that, how did you get involved with HHA? And even just because I know the story, even before that, like, what was your upbringing like hunting and bow hunting, and what was the time frame? What was the era of bow hunting at that time?
Well, I mean, yeah, like you said, a lot of your listeners probably know HHA for the optimizer and the single pin bow sights, and those launched back in '96. So I mean, that's going on 25 years ago, which is crazy how much the time flies. But HHA was actually around for almost a decade, well over a decade before that. My dad actually started the company in 1984 with a single product with a folding stabilizer. So that's what got his foot in the archery door and into the archery world. But then we got into mechanical releases. We made broadheads. We made cardboard deer targets. We made quivers. Just kind of threw anything at the wall that would stick to start making a name for ourselves. And it wasn't until almost a decade later that the optimizer came our way and kind of shot us into the archery stratosphere. And our success kind of bloomed from there. But my dad was an archer back, pre-compound. So you're talking late 60s, early 70s when the first compound bows came out. He picked it up as a hobby, and it soon became a passion. And he decided he wanted to try to get into that industry. So I was born in 1975, and I think I had my first bow in 1977. It was one of the suction cup bows that probably everybody that's ever shot a bow and arrow had. So I've known archery for my entire life. And my first bow, I wish I would have hung on to it, but it was a little white bear compound that I used to shoot when I was 5 or 6 years old. Used to shoot it into a dirt pile about 2 miles from where I'm sitting right now. So, archery's always been a family affair for us. And that's kind of how I got my start in archery and in the industry. This is the only job I've ever had. And it's just been a blessing to be able to be part of such a great fraternity of people over the years.
So when you say that, when you started out with stabilizers and, kind of all the different products and all the different things, this is maybe an off the wall question. But it's just kind of, I like to make people like real people, you know what I mean? Like everybody has an idea and they say, man, this, or you see a product that comes out and it really takes off, and everybody says, I had that idea, and people do things that come to fruition. But not very often do we get to talk to people that have gone through such a long run and through different things. So, like, was there anything that you guys made that just didn't take off? Like, you got a warehouse full of them still to this day, and you walk by them and you're like, what were we thinking? Or, we thought that was going to be the next thing.
Yeah, no, there's definitely been products like that. I mean, the optimizer, that's a once in a lifetime product. I mean, they don't just come along every day. So I mean, for every product that we turn out that's a home run, we've hit a lot of singles and doubles and triples over the year, and unfortunately had a lot of foul balls and some where we've just swung and completely missed. So one I guess that comes to mind was it was called the Gobbler. It was a plastic, like a PVC track that was about 1.5 feet long, and then it had a pulley on each end and a series of rubber bands, and then about a 30-foot string, and it was a mechanical turkey decoy device that you could operate from 10 or 15 feet away and simulate a bird moving. And we sold a few, but I mean that was, I'd have to look. That was probably right around the time the optimizer came out, so late 90s, early 2000s. And so that was kind of a whiff. And then we had a mechanical release probably 15 years ago that we thought was going to be the next best thing. And it was a little too cumbersome. It worked very well, but just ergonomically, it didn't fit the hand very well. And it was a kind of a flop. So yeah, I mean, like I said, for every great product that we come with, I shouldn't say for everyone, but there's definitely been some misses along the way. And I mean, my dad tried to get into the industry back in the late 70s, and just had some initial, small time success, and then just wasn't able to make a go of things. So, I mean, there was a lot of lean years on the front end. Everybody knows HHA is a household name now, but it wasn't always like that. There was a time where we didn't have two nickels to rub together. So, like I said, we're just very blessed to have the level of success that we have, and hard to believe it's been almost 40 years. So,
yeah, I mean, like I say, just kind of an off the wall question, but I mean, so my family owns a business as well, and we've got a warehouse that, I'm almost 40. I'll be 40 this year, and there's things in that warehouse that were there when I was a kid, like that I remember, and I just try and put myself in the position, like, to think about, like, why did they order so many of those, or like what was going on at the time. So it's got to be interesting. I mean, for John and I would imagine that it would be probably cool, like super cool, to just walk through the warehouse and see like old dusty stuff that was from our youth, or like things that,
We used to have a Armstrong Sporting Goods used to be like that. I mean, up until a couple of years ago, we had a sport shop up just north of us, and man, it was like he had stuff from the 80s in there. Brand new bows still hanging up in the rafters. You go up and check all that stuff out, but kind of cool. But.
So yeah, we don't have a lot of old stuff laying around in our warehouse, unfortunately. Well, I guess fortunately and unfortunately, we have a small showcase with kind of our 40-year history condensed into about 10 square feet, and we'd like to expand that at some point if we ever get a bigger building. But it's just neat to look at how the product has evolved over the years, and just to see how far we've come. So
for sure. Now with you in that archery background, like what was your introduction to hunting, or your hunting style over there in Wisconsin? I mean, with Wisconsin and Michigan, we have these deep rooted traditions of deer camps and hunting seasons and the Orange Army and all of that stuff. But how was your what was your introduction to hunting?
I've always been pretty fortunate. Almost from day one, we either had family friends that had land, or we would lease land. We leased land in Buffalo County, which was pretty famous. We were over there. We were in Buffalo County before Buffalo County was cool. So I mean, late 80s, early 90s, when the QDM movement was really starting, we hunted over there. We, by our own admission, we weren't the best hunters. We ate out at the supper clubs quite a bit and probably stayed out too late, but we didn't bring home a lot of deer as a result. But I shot my first deer at would have been my dad's cousin on his land when I was 13 years old with a bow. So did a little gun hunting as a kid, but I was more an archery guy. So and actually struggled quite a bit my first few years in the woods. I had pretty bad target panic, and so I had a lot of misses, and unfortunately I wounded a handful of deer, and I didn't get real proficient probably until late in high school, and then kind of hit my stride in college and out of college, and then I was very, very effective in the woods, and didn't put anything big on the wall, but I definitely filled my tag every year, and we always had a freezer full of venison. So that was kind of my early and middle years of hunting. And then, as you get into the industry, and it seems like I'm going to call it your popularity, or as your status in the industry grows, you get opportunities to hunt other places. And never really did a lot of that. I don't know why. I guess I just, I traveled so much for the business the last 20 years that being gone from home, 4, 6, 8 weeks out of the year during the winter, I just kind of a homebody when it came to hunting season. So I haven't gone all over the globe hunting. Maybe I will at some point, but right now I've got a pretty sweet 160 acres, 15 minutes from the house, where I can have an opportunity at 140, 150 inch deer every fall. So I'm content to sleep in my own bed and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I can't fault you for that. I mean, so John, what's your first memories of the HHA stuff? I mean, because John, I mean, he kind of raised his eyebrows when you had said when you were born, because I think you guys are about to.
I was born in 74, so.
So, for you and my father-in-law, John's uncle, and then John's dad, they grew up, working at the bow shops, and so he has a lot more history with all of the equipment than I do.
I think I still have one of the original. I mean, I remember getting the old HHA, movable pin or single pin, sight. I think I might still have it somewhere. I got a whole box of of everything I've ever bought. But, it was, I mean, when I was growing up, like what you were saying, started out with the bear, and I started out with the old PSE, and we just had a single pin, like the little brass pin. When I finally got a pin, at first my dad was like, no, you got to shoot, no sights, finger release or fingers, no release, all that. But I think it was, I got a PSE Dominator 3D. And I'm pretty sure that was in 96. I think it was one of the first machine risers. I can't remember. I ended up getting an HHA at some point, but.
Because for me, it would have been 90, 99, I think. It's just such a vivid memory for me. And it was seeing them in the magazines, and then seeing man, these things are expensive, or even for the time. And I was in Florida, of all places, on vacation. And for some reason, we were at a Bass Pro Shop because I was at my uncle's house. And of course, we were buying something for fishing or something. And I went to the archery section, and they had one that was returned, and it was $50, and I was like, "Phew, that's a steal!" And I scooped it up, and I hunted with that sight until I saw your Kingpin optimizer light, and I thought, "Wow, look at all the adjustability on that one!" And so then I had to get one of those. But it's just, I mean, like you say, it becoming a household name. What was that like for you guys, being a small shop, or like you said, when you were coming into it, with essentially nothing, and making, kind of making ends meet and following your passion and continuing all of this stuff, and then going to, a home run would be an understatement, I think, for that optimizer. What was that like for you guys there?
It was, it's still, to this day, it's still humbling. I mean, we don't take our success for granted. We've been fortunate enough for the last, I think, 17 years now to win the Bow Hunting World Reader's Choice Gold Award for the top single pin movable sight. I mean, that's 2004. We're talking 2003, 2004. I mean, I had a lot less gray hair back then, and it's man, we won our first award, and we're still winning it. So, yeah, it's still surreal. I mean, my brother does a lot of our engineering, most of our engineering, in fact, and he always, uses the phrase, we walked into that ATA room, and I mean, there is a lot of companies in that building, and to think that we're considered, number one amongst our peers and with the hunting public, again, and I use the word a lot, but I mean, it's a blessing with the level of success that we've been granted. And again, something that we don't take lightly. And I think that's why we're always on the cutting edge of, what the next big thing is going to be, because we're not fearful of losing that status, but it's just something that we work so hard to get, and we appreciate it. And we just want to keep giving back to the industry and stay on top of the mountain as long as we can.
And so I guess for people that aren't familiar, which I guess they'd have to be like living under a rock or something, what has been the evolution of the optimizer and the HHA sights? Just because like I say, like I always looked at it as that the original optimizer with like the little thumb screw, and you had to slide it up and down and you put your own tape. And I mean, ultimately, Frank still has one. Chris may actually have my old sight, and it's just got masking tape and it's got yards on it that I've, you shoot it out to here and there. And then, with the newer ones with the removable wheels and the tapes, that's just the smartest, like easiest, and all the micro adjustment. So can you kind of go through like the evolution of how it got from somewhat rudimentary and the design of it to where you're at now?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the first computer. I mean, I look back at the original prototype that was presented to us back in 94 or 95. And I mean, it's obviously not anodized, so it's just raw aluminum, and it's crude and it's big. And it's like, man, this thing looks like a boat anchor. I wouldn't even dream of putting this on my boat. But, now almost 30 years later, 25 years later, they've gotten smaller. Materials have gotten lighter. We've gotten better. I mean, it's no different than an artist or somebody that's writing books. I mean, I'd like to think that our craftsmanship has improved over time, and I mean, so our tolerances have gotten better. We've gotten smarter with our design. So the first probably 10 years, there wasn't really a lot of refinement to be made. I think, back on that first one, we were actually machining the scope housing out of a solid block of Lexan, which was crazy. But I mean, that was, again, we were only in business for 10 or 11 years, and the cost of a plastic mold was a little scary. So we just said, well, for the first year, let's just, we don't know how many of these things we're going to sell. We'll just machine these scopes out of plastic. Well, there was plastic Lexan shavings flying all over that machine shop. And about 6 months in, my dad said, we better design a mold for this thing. So that was kind of evolution one. And then after, I think at that point, you're talking mid 90s, the cable guards were still down low on the bows. Well, then all of a sudden they decided to start putting the cable guards up high, more in line with your line of sight. So then we had to make the fan, or that arc on the back, that had to get smaller. So that's when the optimizer light came out. And within about 2 or 3 years, it totally killed off the old version. So, there you're talking mid 2000s. And then I think it was 2007. My dad's the one that actually came up with the concept for our tape technology, how that works, is shooting at 20 and 60 yards, and then everything else kind of falls in between. So that was the year that the Ultra came out, which, we still make the optimizer light with the slide arm like everyone's used to, but now the Ultra had the wheel on the rear end, and instead of having marks every 5 yards, now with that tape getting bigger, now you have a mark, from every yard from 20 to 60 yards, which now we bump that out to 80. So I mean, that takes you, I guess, through about the first 10 years of the site. And after that, then I think it was probably 2015, I believe, when the Kingpin came out. So that was when the wheel went forward, 'cause more people were wanting to mount the quivers close to the bow. So that was probably the next evolution. And then just recently, within the last 2-3 years, we've kind of redesigned our micro adjust and refined our pin housing, how the fiber optics are held. So I mean, every year it's just like, well, what can we do to make this better? And unfortunately, they're not all our ideas. We can't take credit for everything. So I mean, we've got some great competition in the archery industry, and we all kind of push each other to make things better. So I mean, there's obviously ideas that are patented that you can't touch, but there's some things that people just refine, and it's like, oh, that looks like a good idea. Let's do what they did and refine it. And I think that that just it happens. It's no different than sports. If a play works for a certain team, well, hey, we should probably try that. So I think that happens a lot in in the archery industry and a lot of businesses. So,
well, I know that it's blasphemy, but John switched from his HHA to another one because they had
multi-pin slider.
Yep. And so that's what we were talking about when we were looking at your sites, and you said, go ahead and grab off there whatever you want. And John's like, well, the whole reason that I went away from it is because there wasn't a multi-pin slider, and you guys have brought that on now with the new Tetra series. Those are the ones that the first multi-pin sliders from HHA.
No, we've had, and that's one area that we, by our own admittance, have struggled in. I mean, we've had that's got to be at least the probably fourth or fifth incarnation of a multi-pin slider, but it's hands down the nicest one that we've ever had. So I mean, going all the way back to the late 90s, we had a 3-pin that we were putting on a slider, but again, we were known for our 1-pin, so we really kind of put all of our chips in that basket, and so the multi-pin never really got as much attention as it should have. And as more and more people have wanted to go to that multi-pin slider, we just decided once and for all, hey, we've got to do our homework. Let's come out with if our single pins are a 10, our multi-pins might have been a 7. So it's like, let's really focus on this multi-pin this year. And I think we did that last year. That new 4-pin that we came out with is hands down the nicest multi-pin we've ever had. And the numbers are showing it. The dealers are supporting it. And the general public is seeming to like it. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, it's the best of both worlds. I mean, I loved my Optimizer Kingpin, and I mean for shooting like 3D, or we go up to the Total Archery Challenge and stuff like that, and it's great. But like for a hunting situation, I like to have a multi-pin, just especially for like in deer woods or like if we're going out west. I mean, you never know when that elk or deer, whatever, is going to come and move in or move out quick. And then to try to, wheel that sight up or do the Kentucky windage with just 1 pin, it's like, man, I like getting used to like 4 or 5 pins, and then I can use my bottom pin as my rover, and then, I like to shoot long distance too, just, playing around in the yard. So I like to be able to shoot out to 100 yards. But so now it's that new 4-pin is definitely a step up. So.
Well, no, that's good to hear. Because I mean, I'm a single pin guy through and through. I like a 1-pin, but not everybody wants to drink that Kool-Aid. So we just realized, hey, if we're gonna start, stealing more market share from our competition, we've got to really shore up that side of the yard, and we definitely did with that new 4-pin. So, like I said, I'm excited that we've got it in the line, and definitely we'll continue to enhance that side of things too. So,
and now. John and I were going back and forth on this when I was setting up my multi-pin slider. The top pin versus the bottom pin as your rover, pluses, minuses. What do you have any insight on that, Chris, or you're just a single pin guy and that's for Scott to deal with?
Yep, that's exactly where I was going to kick that question, and he's done a really good job of promoting that for us, and we've got I think we have a pretty in-depth video on sighting in a multi-pin, and I know there's a couple different schools of thought there. Some guys like to use the top pin, some like to use the bottom. So again, being the owner of the company, I should probably have a better answer for you, but I'm gonna default that one to Scott and your listeners to go and check out our YouTube channel and watch our video on that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, my preference is the bottom pin because I like to shoot the longest distance possible. So like, when I get this new sight set up, I'll probably do 10 yard gaps. So it'll be 20, 30, 40, 50. And then I'll set my sight tape up, and then I'll leave the pointer at 50 yards, and then use my bottom pin as the rover. And then that way
Sure.
I can crank her all the way out. I can probably get to 130 yards now. I mean,
and you guys do an incredible job of doing that 20 and 60 on your setup tape. But John's like the nerd of the nerds. So what is your setup method, John?
Well, It's just kind of like the old. I mean, I'll do it 20 and 60, but then I will go and then I'll do 20 and 80, and then I'll even go out farther and just, once I get a tape close, then I'll try to zero in my 100, and I'm not.
He's got the micrometer out there.
Yeah, I have my digital calipers and I'll sit there and measure it all out. But I mean, it just every little bit helps. But I mean, for the most part, the 2060 is usually right on. I mean,
it's close enough for most people out there. But I mean, in a perfect world, if everybody could shoot, a grapefruit at 100 yards, we would tell people to shoot 20 and 100. But I mean, I don't know a lot of guys that can consistently hit that at 100. I have a hard time doing that at 60 on a good day. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's just funny to me because when I was setting up that one on my bow, it says, for the average guy, do this. But if you're, looking for that extra or whatever, so even in the instructions, it's got guys like John in mind for that little bit extra. And the one thing that I really, really like about the sights, and you talked about a little bit about the upgrading on it, is that micro adjust.
The new windage.
Well, the new windage is great, but even on the old, that optimizer light, the Kingpin light there, if guys haven't had the experience, even with like, when I was getting, my stuff, and John's like, well, is it got the click? Is it adjustable? Like that micro adjust is just, I mean, you talked, Chris, about like however many gray hairs, like the frustration factor. If you've ever tried setting up your own sight and you're going back and forth and you're trying to mark it with a Sharpie or something like that, like those little, it's just the little things that everything, it seems to have been designed for like ease of use. And I think that's kind of one thing that can't be overstated.
For sure. And I mean, it kind of goes back to, aim small, miss small. I mean, not everybody maybe is going to be able to shoot as good as the equipment, but we want to make sure that, for the most meticulous guy or gal out there that really wants to dial this thing in, that their equipment's going to be able to do that. Because, the last thing I want to do is send somebody into the woods in the fall without something that they're confident with. I mean, if you can be driving tacks, on the 3D range or in your backyard, you're just going to be that much more confident in the woods. I mean, we're all hunters here, so we torture test this stuff before it goes to market, and we want to make sure that if it won't perform for us, it's not going to perform for the customer. So we're very, very strong on attention to detail in every aspect of our business, and obviously in the quality of our products. So.
Yeah, one of the things too about that micro adjust, and we've talked about it. You say, in the deer woods there, and like for me, where that micro adjust comes in, and we've talked about this on other podcasts, but it's like that part of archery that's like between your ears, like that where you need that confidence. And like we'll be shooting our indoor league, and John's over moving his sight and doing stuff, and I'm like, this bow is on, it's got to be me. But that little mental thing where you can just take 2 clicks, move it to the right, and then maybe you make a better shot, but it's got you out of your head, like you adjusted the sight. And that certainly happened for me. And John's like, oh, maybe it's the temperature, maybe it's you, maybe it's this and that. But it's funny to me, and it's a pretty good transition, because that's the same way that I was like in the Marines on the rifle range. Like I was always like, the gun was zeroed yesterday. Like it was fine, forget the wind conditions, like it should be shooting just fine. And I never made those adjustments. And so I always shot like crap. Like it was just awful. And, then, you make the adjustments, you keep hitting in the same spot, you make the adjustments, and it goes. And I said that as a kind of like a transition, because that's 100% true, but you're, giant supporter of veterans in the military, and you've taken, what you've done or been able to do and all of your blessings from HHA and kind of taken that one step further to show that support. So can you tell us a little bit about, kind of what you're doing on that side for the veterans?
Sure, I sure can. I mean, HHA USA, a lot of people might see that on our website, or we're starting to show it a little bit more on our packaging now because we want folks to know what we're all about. But this is 2021. So back in 2015, 2016, I started as a ground volunteer for our local Honor Flight chapter. And for your listeners that aren't familiar with that, Honor Flight is a national organization. They've got about 140 chapters nationwide, but they send World War II, Korea, and Vietnam veterans to D.C. for the day to visit memorials erected in their honor. And I actually got turned on to them. I was reading our local newspaper a couple of years prior to that, and a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Lucroy was an all-star catcher for the Milwaukee Brewers at the time. He had gone on the Honor Flight. And I had come to know him through a couple other ball players in the industry that hunted, and we kind of hit it off. And there was an article in the paper about him going on this Honor Flight, and I texted him, I'm like, tell me about this. And he's like, dude, hands down the coolest thing I've ever done. And this is the guy that just made his first all-star team. And so he's putting this Honor Flight up above that. And I was like, wow, I gotta check this out. So anyway, I started as a ground volunteer, and it was 2016. I was driving home from the airport one night, and I thought, man, how can I leverage, the success that I've had in the archery industry to help raise money for this cause? So I just started making a few phone calls, and we scheduled 3 archery shoots in 2017. And I just used a bunch of my connections in the industry to send us, door prizes that we could auction off essentially. And we raised $15,000 for our local Honor Flight chapter that year. So that was kind of how everything got started. We did those same 3 shoots in 2018, and we doubled our monies raised to $30,000. 2019, we added a 4th shoot, and that year we raised $45,000. So at that point, it was like, man, this thing's taken off. And I had people asking me, to come to other parts of the state, and it's like, well, I'm just a volunteer for this local Honor Flight chapter. So at that point, I decided to start a 501c3 of HHA USA. And now last year we did, even with COVID-19, we were able to put on 8 shoots across the state of Wisconsin, and we raised $60,000 for our veterans.
And so what's on the docket for 2021? You said that, okay, you just went and got, all the things to become a nonprofit. Now, is this becoming something kind of bigger than just you, where you've got a committee or a board, and it's getting bigger and bigger and growing, or is it still just kind of you and kind of making it work?
Well, no, I mean, in order to have a 501c3, I legally had to have a board. So it's myself and 2 other gentlemen that are on the board, but we just, we meet once or twice a year just to kind of go over things. And, but other than that, I have 8 or 9 active volunteers that I've just kind of organically met over the last 3-4 years doing these shoots. I mean, there's going to be anywhere from 4 to 6 of us at every shoot. We've got 8 shoots on the docket for this year. And I can honestly see at some point this thing growing beyond state lines, because I run all the social media for it. And then anytime I post a new shoot, I'll have people like, hey, we're in Michigan, we're in Pennsylvania, we're in Florida. When are you guys coming here? And it's going to be a little while. Unfortunately, I do have a day job of helping run HHA, so I can't do this thing full time. But I can fully see at some point, having HHA USA chapters in other states. And one of the other cool things that we do, and something I'm very passionate about, is the 22 vets a day that commit suicide. So when I launched HHA USA, even though the bulk of our funds still go back to Honor Flight, we partnered with 3 other veterans organizations: Wounded Warriors in Action, Neestead Foundation, and E3 Ranch Foundation. And so the first 22% we raise every year, we equally divide it to those 3 groups, and their wheelhouse is getting servicemen and women into the outdoors, hunting and fishing to help combat PTSD. So again, something I'm super passionate about, and it's been such a blessing to be able to work with the veteran community and use everything we've been given through HHA to give back.
I said it in the opening, and I can't. I mean, it seems like lip service, when you're saying, "Oh yeah, we got a guest coming on, and he's a super great guy, and he's doing all this great stuff." But I mean, that's a lot to give back, and how did that become like such a personal passion of yours? I mean, I know that you saw the honor flight and thought that's pretty cool, but uh, I would say 90% of the people don't do anything even near that. So how did it become such a scalable thing? I mean, what's driving you to do that?
It was kind of a combination of things. I mean, I was born and raised Catholic back in, when I was a kid, and I got away from my faith in high school, and got married, got divorced, and went down a pretty dark road, and was in a bad spot about 10 years ago, to the point where there was some days I didn't know if I was going to make it to the next one. I mean, I got into drinking pretty bad, and just I wasn't a good person. The persona that Chris Hamm was to the archery public was completely different than the guy that was off the clock after 5 o'clock. And so, long story short, I ended up meeting just an amazing Christian woman that I believe to this day, and I'll believe it till the day I die. She was heaven sent, and helped me turn my life around. And at that point, that was when my success had really gone to my head from HHA, and I was all about Chris for the first 40 years of my life, and that changed overnight when when I found my faith again. And it was one of the things that God put on my heart was veterans, and I kicked it away for probably 2 years because I'm not a veteran myself. I've got a couple uncles that were in Korea. They didn't see combat; they were stateside. So I mean, I didn't really have a personal connection very closely with a veteran at that point. But once I married this woman, her father was in Vietnam, so he's been instrumental to me first and foremost in my faith walk, but then just in sharing some of his stories from being in Vietnam. I was actually able to go on the honor flight with him, so that was probably the main catalyst behind that. And then, like I said, I also met Lucroy, and him telling me about honor flight. And then another really life-changing experience that I had, I was able to go to West Point back in 2016 to the Department of Defense Warrior Games to see, some of the servicemen and women that had been injured in combat competing in the archery division in that. And that, I mean, I'll never forget this to this day. I was sitting in the bleachers watching this gentleman that had been blown up by an IED. His face was completely unrecognizable. He had no fingers, and he was shooting at 20 meters better than I could on my best day. And I was like, man, I'm never going to complain about having a bad day again once I saw what that gentleman was doing. And that just really, really shook me to the core. And I knew at that point, I knew that archery was such a huge part of that man's life and what it had done to him. And I'll never forget flying home on the airplane that night from New York with a good friend of mine who was in the service, and we had already at that point started talking about starting a nonprofit. So I mean, it's kind of a long story, but that's where my heart for veterans came from. And I'm not saying this just because I'm on a podcast. I'll say this to a guy at Walmart in the grocery line, but I mean, without our veterans, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation right now. And I have so much respect for anybody that ever put on that uniform and defends the freedoms for our country.
Yeah, I mean, and it completely kind of radiates through you. I mean, like for everything that you're doing, and for all the stuff. And I mean, obviously, I was in the Marines, and I deal with a lot of, a lot of the people that are around me are veterans, and that it just kind of. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's not for 99% of the guys. It's not anything that you're looking for the thank you or it's just, I guess maybe was something that you wanted to do at the time, or there's a family history or something like that. But it's never for like a thank you. It's just is what it is. It seems kind of silly, but. There are so many people that have been affected by so much, and for people to reach out and give back. And I've got a lot of friends that are in other veterans organizations in the outdoors, and getting veterans out, that means a lot to a lot of people. And I've got friends that are working their way through some inner demons in the outdoors, and it is a great thing. And like you and I had talked before, but the honor flight, especially for guys of that era, and you said a lot of the Korean World War II guys are kind of passing on, so it's opening up spots for some of the Vietnam guys that didn't get a warm welcome home. And to have that is got to mean just so much to them from the experiences that they had. So I mean, that's great.
I can't imagine. I mean, I've been, as a volunteer for Honor Flight, I've been a part of, a half dozen welcome homes, and was able to go on a couple flights myself. And I know how emotional I get being a civilian, and just seeing how much it impacts these men and women that served our country. And it's just an amazing organization. And it's something that, I've gotten to be pretty good friends with the gentleman that co-founded our local chapter. And, I told him a couple of weeks ago, I said, I'm gonna be supporting you guys until I'm sucking my last breath. And I honestly believe that, 'cause I mean, it's my passion. It's what I'm all about. And, I've been fortunate enough to the point now where, we have so many great people working at HHA that they've been able to kind of take some of my workload away from me. So I don't work 8 or 10 hour days anymore. I mean, there's days where I still have to, but for the most part, I mean, I can accomplish what I need to do for my for-profit business in 4 or 5 hours a day. So that allows me the other 4 or 5 hours to pour into this nonprofit. I mean, we've just got some really, really cool stuff on the horizon for this year. Again, like I said, we're having eight shoots, going to be announcing a 9th one here real soon. We've got a partnership coming up with a pretty well-known national archery tour that we're hitching our train to, and we'll be announcing that on social media here probably within the next couple of weeks. And then I guess I can drop another little spoiler alert. I'm actually getting ready to start my own podcast for HHA USA probably here in the next 2 or 3 months. So.
All right. Well, you'll have to let us know when you do that. We'll share the heck out of it.
Well, and I've got a veteran that I know over there that I'd love to have on as a guest too. Because I mean, that's been one thing that I've really, for as great of a thing as we're doing here, I love what we're doing with HHA USA. But my biggest prayer in the last couple of years since I started this is, how can I increase the reach beyond state borders without having to leave my couch? And I don't want to sound lazy when I say that, but I mean, I'm only one man at this point, and it might be a few years before we can start planting chapters in other states. But I think, this partnership we've got coming up with this traveling archery tour, I think is going to help us out. And then my biggest thing, I mean, we want to raise money for vets. We want to send them on hunts. We want to send them on honor flights. But the biggest thing that I want to get across to your listeners and just to anybody out there is just to appreciate our veterans. And I mean, that doesn't have to cost you a dime. I mean, I live 5 minutes from Walmart. I'm in there once a week buying groceries and buying stuff. And I'm on constant alert looking for those guys and those gals with those veteran hats and just thanking them for their service. And, sometimes it's a simple thank you and they keep walking. And I've had some awesome, 5-10 minute conversations with guys that it's like, man, that was awesome. It meant as much to me, I think, as it did to them. So, I'm looking forward to starting the podcast because I have so many connections, within the veteran community now and within the archery and the outdoor community of other companies that, they may not have started nonprofits, but they sponsor us and help us out. And so I think it's going to be a lot of fun to get that thing started and really kind of turn the volume up on what we're doing with HHA USA this year.
Well, podcasting is fun. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it if it was. I mean, it's a lot of work.
I love it. I mean, I like being on this side of the chair. I just, ever since COVID hit, it seems like I'm doing a podcast every other week. I love getting on them and I love telling my story. But I know that other people have a story too that needs to be told. And like I said, I'm really excited to kind of get the ball rolling on that and start sharing some of this stuff with folks. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming down the pipeline here in 2021. So,
well, so for 2021, and I mean, you laid it out there. I don't think anybody can. After if they've made it this far in the podcast, I don't think anybody can go out and shop for another site other than HHA, right? I mean, it's you're doing a good thing. What are some of the new things since there was no ATA this year for 2021 for HHA, the company?
We got back into the stabilizer market this year. So like I said earlier, 1984, our first product ever was a stabilizer, and that lasted until, maybe the mid 90s, and then it kind of died out. And then once we got into sights, that was where we put all of our eggs for a long time. And we maybe had two or three other stabilizers in the last 25 years, but I think it's probably been, I'd have to look back in our catalogs, it's probably been mid 2000s since we had one. So, that was one category that we just felt like we could probably make some noise in. And we had kind of a unique idea brought to us by a good friend of mine that's actually on my board of directors for our nonprofit that he had patented. So we kind of did a spin off of that and came out with an adjustable stabilizer. And then we've got a 6, 8, and a 10-inch, fixed length and sidebar bracket. We've got weights, we've got slings. So we're fully into the stabilizer market, and the early reviews on that have been pretty positive. So we should start shipping those here in the next 3 weeks. And then we hadn't really planned on doing anything new on sites just because we went all in on those back, with our 2020 release, and we were just going to take a year off and focus on the stabilizers. But then the engineers from Hoyt approached us back in November, and they came out with a new sight mounting system with a Picatinny rail on the front of the bow this year. So, we partnered with them as well. So our Tetra and our Tetra Max sights will be available with the Hoyt Picatinny adjustment on it here in the next couple of weeks too. So that was just kind of a little side blessing that we weren't really expecting, but we're definitely getting a lot of phone calls, emails, posts on social media, wondering when those are going to be shipping too. So
yeah, if you've got Hoyt coming after you and saying, "Hey, we need you to make a site specifically for this," it's got to be good to be number one then, huh?
That was flattering. I have to tell the whole story. There was a couple of our other competitors that they also came after as well. So we're not the only one in that game, but we were in the conversation, which again is flattering. And it was an easy engineering project for us because it was literally just two different parts. So like I said, those will be shipping out here in the next couple of weeks. So I'm curious to see what the success of those is, but to partner up with a company like Hoyt, even though we're in Matthews country, we understand not everybody's gonna drink that Kool-Aid, and we were approached by them, so we surely weren't going to say no.
So one of the questions I always ask is, what bow are you shooting right now, and what's your setup?
I've got it's probably got to be a 3-year-old Matthews Traverse. And I'm running our Tetra Max Hunter on that with our Matthews rest, and then I just put a new set of stabilizers on it here a couple weeks ago. So, and I'm shooting Black Eagle Spartan arrows, and I'm friends with the guys at Fairdyne and at Rage, so I'm still shooting Rage hypodermics. So that's my whitetail setup, and that's pretty much primarily all I do. I haven't turkey hunted for probably 10 or 15 years, and I'm going to get back into that game because we just partnered with a group called The Breaking Point. They're Wisconsin-based, do a really good online streaming hunting show. So a bunch of those guys hunt locally by us, and so we're going to go out and hopefully kill some turkeys on film here in May. So
sweet, sounds good.
And I do have a new Atlas, Matthews Atlas on order whenever I can pry one of those out of Matthews' hands. But just like everybody else manufacturing outdoor products these days, the wait might be a little while. So
yeah, I was looking at that Atlas myself. I'm like, man, that looks like an awesome bow.
So with the Atlas, Chris, are you John's a huge guy. So are you like super tall? Do you need that long bow with the long draw length, or?
I am. Yeah, I'm 6'4", so I like a little longer axle to axle, a little longer draw length. So.
Yeah, I'm 6'3", and I shoot at least a 31-inch draw length. So.
Yeah, I'm a 30.5. So.
So, for the shoots through HHA USA, where can people find these events? Where can they follow along? How do they sign up? And then what about guys, because our listeners are all over the country and you're only able to do these events, right now in Wisconsin. So, if other guys hear this and they're like, man, I would really like to help out with that, or, it's a great thing they're doing. How can guys help out or become involved or donate or whatever?
Yeah. So I just announced everything. All of our shoots got announced on social media at the end of 2020 and then early 2021. So, our website will be getting updated here in the next month. So I would say by the 1st of March, all of our events will be posted on there. And then on Facebook as well, we'll have an event created for everyone. And I wasn't planning on announcing this tonight, but you kind of put me on the spot. So that popular national touring archery tournament that I referred to as the R100. So HHA and HHA USA are actually going to be active sponsors for the R100 this year, which I'm pretty excited about because they've got 21 events around the country. And the gentleman that's doing their advertising for them now used to work for Grandview Media, which is archery business, bow hunting world. So I've known him for years, and he called me up right before Christmas and said, hey, I got an opportunity for you. And I was able to, since our 501c3 only operates in Wisconsin, I can't legally raise money out of state, but I can't stop anybody else from doing it. So R100 is going to be putting up a 10-target course called Whitetails for Warriors, and all of that money will get donated back to HHA USA at the end of 2021.
Sweet.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So,
my prayer has definitely been answered in the form of, partnering with a very well-known target company that's got a very popular, national 3D archery tour that is going to hit, 21 different locations throughout the year. And then a combination of that and starting our podcast, I think that will definitely put more eyes and ears on what we're doing. And, for people that either can't make one of our events here in Wisconsin or can't hit an R100, we do have a donation button on our website, hhausa.org. So, all those funds will go back to Honor Flight chapters and those other 3 military nonprofits veteran nonprofits I told you about earlier in the show. So I'm our main volunteer, if you want to call me that. My wife helps out a ton behind the scenes, and then I've got, like I said, 8 or 10 other guys that are just sold out on this cause as much as I am and help me out, and nobody makes a dime off of this thing. So any money that flows this way to HHA USA goes right back to our veterans.
Well, that's awesome. Now, do you have a name for the podcast and a time frame? Is when guys can start looking for that, or am I putting you on the spot one more time?
I was just thinking about that in the shower this morning. I'm like, man, I've got HHA USA, but what am I going to call this podcast? So I don't have a name for it yet, but it's obviously going to have that big HHA USA emblem on it. It'll have something to do with getting veterans into archery and into the outdoors. So that's something that I'm going to put my marketing cap on one of these days and come up with that name. But I would think we're at the first part of February. I definitely want to get it going before our first shoot. Our first shoot is May 15th. So, and I want to get, 5 or 6 of these in the can. So once we start, we can just keep rolling them out. So I would probably see, I would say definitely in the next 2 months, probably right after Easter, by the middle of April, you should start seeing that podcast. And we'll obviously announce it on, our social platforms for HHA USA and HHA Sports. So,
well, awesome, Chris. We'll definitely let everybody know when that does come out, and continue to support you and all that you're doing. I mean, that's really great. But thanks for coming on here and sharing your story and kind of talking a little bit about the HHA stuff, the day job. But I think kind of more powerfully, all the other stuff you're doing is, I mean, like I said, with the products and all of that, I mean, it's hard to argue with what you're doing with, what you've got. So, thank you for everything that you're doing as well.
No, I mean, like I said, we've been very fortunate. We've got such a loyal band of followers over the years, and that seems to be, continuing to grow because, we make all our products on American soil and everything's made here. It's got a lifetime warranty, and that's brought us a lot of loyalty over the years. And like I said, when it was time to start giving back to somebody, the veterans just totally made sense. So we had started a military discount program back right around that same time when all that stuff was happening. And so that's really kind of kicked into high gear too. I've taken a step back from some of the day-to-day sales stuff. I've got a great sales manager that handles a lot of that, but if veterans go to our website and email somebody about military discount, that comes right to me, because I want to have those conversations with those guys and gals. And that's probably one of the favorite parts of my day, when I see a new inquiry come over for military discount. That means I get to talk to another veteran about getting them into an HHA and hearing a little bit of their story if they want to share it. So
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for stopping by. I think that's kind of all we got this evening. But like I say, just thanks for your time and everything that you've done.
No, you guys are very welcome. And if you get energetic, maybe you can hop on the ferry and head over to the lake and come over to a shoot this year if you get bored.
Yeah, we'll have to check out the schedule. John's taken the ferry a bunch of times.
Yeah, sounds. Definitely, we love getting our shoots on. So.
Well, we got 8 of them over here for you, so maybe we'll be shooting some arrows together this summer.
Sounds good.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.